I haven't done one of these videos for a while. I was doing them primarily when I was had the time before I started running so many online programs. When I was had time to reflect, I still have time to reflect in the days, but when especially during the first phase of lockdown, when it was so quiet and everything shut down. We're still in lockdown in France now, so I'm not sure of the numbers that we're allowed to meet with, but it's not many. In fact, well, I don't. And we have a curfew and so on. Anyway, I also noticed one of the differences between those recordings that I did back then and now is how disheveled I've become in the meantime. Um, sort of lack of top hairdressing and haircuts. I'm the hairdresser basically. Anyway, one of the things I've reflected on, and it was really triggered by somebody being interviewed on Breakfast TV this morning. I had the UK news on, and an author of a book, and I'll give the reference to that book if I can find. I'm looking for it now, and I realised that since living on my own, there's a lot of things I do that I didn't used to do, and living in the country in France, I think very typically, especially if you have, quite a bit of land or you have a garden, and even if not, sometimes that you need to be strong. And I realized that when I was married, I used to expect some of these strong jobs to be done for me. So, for example, if something heavy needed to be lifted, I just didn't expect to do it. I didn't do it for all sorts of reasons. If something was tough, physically tough, um, even as simple as getting a stiff top off a bottle, um, I didn't expect to do it. I didn't do it. I asked um, usually my husband then to do it for me, and that was really highlighted for me when I came here and I started living alone. I think, this top won't come off this bottle. Who's going to do it for me? I thought nobody's going to do it other than me. And one of my wrists is particularly not very strong, or hasn't been, because I'd broken it some time ago, some years ago. Anyway, I thought, right, I'm going to do this, whatever. And equally, I have a number of heaters, and my cooker is run from a Calagas bottle, which, when full, is very heavy. And although when I get one in the shop, they will lift it into the boot of the car, they automatically do that. However, I have to get it out at this end and into the house. And being here this winter and not in India, for example, I've relied on a lot more heaters and therefore more Calagas bottles and therefore more bottles to be lifted. And so I thought, well, yeah, I have to get the strength to do this. And I have. And I realized that a lot of my work is about physical strength, having the strength to choose how we want to be and how we wish to respond to situations, and how to respond to situations in a way that achieves our outcome. And I had certainly aligned it with flexibility, physical flexibility, but I hadn't aligned it with being strong. And there was a woman this morning being interviewed on breakfast television. And she'd realized this. She'd realized that in her life, other people had always done the strong jobs, the strong lifting, the strong pushing, um, and that she had lacked confidence in herself as well. And that for whatever reason, maybe she was also now living alone, I hadn't seen the whole interview, that she decided to become strong. And she's actually taken it to quite an extreme, and she's amongst the sort of champion women weightlifters. Um, and what she was saying was, and she said, a lot of women, I suppose, particularly think that the key to managing yourself physically is to be slim, but slim doesn't equate to strength. And for her, achieving strength equated to achieving a confidence in herself that she hadn't had before. And yes, I realize that the emphasis can be on, I do a lot of cycling, which requires a particular kind of strength, but it doesn't necessarily help me get tops off bottles, which I can do now. And I've had a few tips as to how to do that as well. So I'm just wondering, I do think it's more of a tendency for women to leave the strong jobs to men. That's a generalization, I know. And I just wonder how much you expect, how much you believe, if you're a woman listening to this, how much you expect to do the strong things in life, and how important physical strength is to you, and how you address that. Thought for the day.